No, leave it unbuttoned.
No.
Let the chest
No.
hang out.
I don't know why that. What happened there?
You rolled in here with these like cotton pants. What are those? Linen. You got some linen pants and a lot of chest showing and sunglasses. I was like,
I'm ready for the beach.
yeah. I was like, where are you going?
Yeah, man.
You're in the wrong state.
I am.
So you moved out to Denver to chase your wife, then girlfriend,
Correct.
Nicole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a ring, but her mom wouldn't
Oh,
let
wow.
me. Her mom wouldn't let me ask.
Why?
I don't know. I still haven't figured that out. She kept saying no
So you asked her mom for like a blessing
3 times.
3 times, and what was her response?
I think she just thought we were too young. We were just college kids.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
It's her baby. So
Okay.
finally, I just said, okay,
I hope this doesn't ruin it.
pretty much.
Well, I asked my wife. I was very young. We were still in college. I was just out of college. My wife was between her sophomore and junior.
Pretty early.
Yeah, a little early. And I asked her dad, and he said, "Well, I knew you guys were getting serious, but I didn't think y'all were that serious." I was like, "Well, we'd been long distance dating for a year," and I was like, "I don't want to do this anymore." I said, "We should either break up or get married." She was like, "For real?" I was like, "Yeah."
Those are good
She was like,
options.
"Okay, let's get married." I was like, "Okay, I'll
Wow.
go back. I'll go back and buy a ring. I'll be back."
And her dad said yes.
He didn't say. He didn't say no.
Okay.
He liked me. He was just like, "Y'all are too young," but whatever.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we just did it,
Man.
So.
Yeah, we moved in 2008. Nicole got a job at Teach for America.
'Kay.
In Montbello.
Okay.
Which
What was she
is
teaching?
English.
Okay. How
To
old?
freshmen in high school who had a reading and writing level of first grade on average.
How was that possible?
Great question.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Be a
That's-
whole nother podcast.
I have a second grader. She just finished first grade. Her reading and writing is not great.
It's probably still
For an
better than
adult.
those high school
Yeah,
kids.
yes.
It was sad. It was crazy.
That's hard, man.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
All right. So let's introduce yourself. Tell the people, give them 30-second elevator pitch, who you are, what you do.
Okay. Yeah. Name's Aurom Mahobian. I don't have a middle name. Never have. If you're interested in giving me one, I'm taking recommendations.
Okay.
I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, but my folks convinced me to switch to civil engineering about 2 years ago. Been in Colorado since 2008, chased my wife out
Okay.
here, and didn't know anything about Colorado. Grew up in Kansas City, never really went anywhere outside of Kansas City
Okay.
in the country. We would always like travel to Europe, but never like other states. So I didn't really know. Yeah, that's just
Why
how
is
my
that?
parents, they
Okay.
just wanted to get out.
Is there a direct flight from Kansas City to Europe?
No, no.
Okay.
My aunt lives in Italy, so we went to Italy a lot,
Okay.
which was amazing.
That's cool.
But yeah, didn't know how to ski, didn't know how to bike, didn't really even know how to hike. I just was sort of blindly coming into Colorado.
Okay. It was
And
like 100% for your wife. Girlfriend at the time.
$1,000,000%.
Okay.
Yeah.
You weren't like, oh, I like my wife, but I also love the mountains, so I have to go.
No,
I need the fresh air.
No,
I
I hated mountain biking. I
Okay.
sucked at skiing. I lied to her. I told her I could ski. I couldn't ski.
did she ever find out? Like, did
Oh,
you
yeah.
go skiing with her? And,
Yeah.
And just eat it?
I would just say, listen, I'm gonna do these easy runs over here.
Mm.
You go do your stuff.
You know what's hilarious is I have a very similar story when I was dating my wife. We were just dating early on, and I knew she was a runner, and I hate running. I'm bad at it, like long distance running. She could go run 20 miles. I can't run 2. And I would like, hey, do you want to go run with me tonight? And like that was like us hanging out. And she's like, yeah. And then we'd do like 2 or 3 laps, and I'd be dying. I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna do some push-ups. And so I'd like go off on the side and just let her keep running, and I'd just do push-ups. And I'd watch her when she'd get on
Amazing.
the other side of the lake. I'd just like rest, and then
Pretend,
she'd get close,
yeah,
and I'd be
it's
like,
good.
oh, I'll keep going. I'm gonna do one more time. Yeah. And I'd be doing push-ups just so I didn't have to run.
That's fantastic.
And then I'd hop back in with her and run a couple laps and be like, I'm gonna do some more push-ups.
Has she taught you how to run yet?
I don't think it's possible to teach me how to run.
Oh, come on.
Long distances, I can't do it.
You could do it.
Got bad knees.
You could do it. Here's how my wife taught me how to ski. She took me to the hardest runs on the mountain,
Said get down.
and she said, I'll see you later. And I had to figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
And it was awful. But we learned. So now we're obsessed. So
Okay.
we're all into
You go a
skiing.
lot.
Oh, yeah. We're all in. Kids
Cool.
are on ski teams. We ski
Oh,
every
wow.
weekend. Yeah. We ski like, I don't know, 50 days a year.
Do you have a specific spot that you go, or you mix it up?
We used to mix it up before we had the kids in the teams. Now we're going to be at Breck every weekend for basically
Wow, that's a
4
good
months.
one. If you got to be at one, that's a good one.
It's a pretty
It's
good
so
spot.
big.
It's awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah.
You'll have to take me sometime. I like to board. I don't like to ski as much.
I'll forgive you.
okay.
okay.
We can still be friends.
I think so.
All right, cool. All right. So you grew up in Kansas City, and do you have any siblings?
Little brother,
Okay.
Pejman.
Pejman?
He is like 3.5 years younger. Just got married.
Oh, cool.
Like a month
Congrats,
ago. Yeah,
Pejman.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, congrats, Pejman. He's a civil engineer. He worked for the family business for a few years, and then
Okay.
he sort of is on his own little journey, and he's out in San Diego right now.
Oh, it's a good place to be. It's my favorite city in America.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you can afford to live there.
Yeah,
so.
he lives in Del Mar, which
Okay.
is a beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing,
Tough.
all
That's
the time.
tough. Man, I feel so bad for him. Does he need a personal assistant?
He would take one, yeah. But that's it, just one sibling, just one
Okay.
brother.
Cool. And then what made you want to go to KU?
Pretty much, it was 30 minutes from home, and all my friends were going to KU from high school,
Okay.
and
So you knew a lot of people going.
yeah.
So your parents were first generation immigrants?
Yeah, so they
That's amazing.
came. Yeah, so they moved from Iran in the 70s.
Okay.
You were not alive.
Nope.
If you remember
Almost.
the 70s, there was this thing called a revolution in Iran.
Yeah.
And a lot of Iranians fled the country. But before the revolution, before the U.S. and Iran were, foes, they used to be friends. And in the early 70s and before that, there was foreign exchange programs where the U.S. was basically like begging Iranian students to come and study in the States because they were so smart.
Yeah.
And so my dad came that way. My mom came as a result of the revolution.
Nice.
And then when she moved,
So they didn't know each other when they moved here?
They really didn't.
They moved separately?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they had like a mutual connection through a cousin or something.
Okay.
That was about it.
Okay.
And then like they shut the universities down for 4 years in Iran
Oh,
right when my
wow.
mom moved. Yeah. So she wouldn't have been able to go to school.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty crazy, man.
That's very lucky.
Yeah. So they
Good time-
came,
good
yeah,
timing.
didn't speak any English, figured it out.
I
My
cannot
dad
fathom how hard that is.
My dad tells the story. He had like this piece of paper that somebody gave him that just said Lawrence, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. He didn't know any English, and they like put him on a flight, put him on a Greyhound bus, and he just kept saying, Lawrence, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. That's it.
And just showing people.
Yeah, there was no cell phones. There was no nothing.
Yeah.
He got to Lawrence. I have no idea how,
Wow.
which is where KU is.
Yeah.
So that's where he started his college.
Wow. And he went straight into college.
He went straight into college.
Okay.
Yeah, got a civil engineering degree. Mom did the same thing. She's a little bit younger. And then they both worked in Kansas City.
Learned English while he was learning engineering.
Correct. Which one do you think is harder? Probably English.
Probably English. Yeah, probably English from the ground up.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
I believe that. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, engineering is mostly math, right?
Yeah.
So you
And
know
there was
math,
no YouTube.
Numbers are universal. So,
Yeah,
and there's no
no
YouTube.
Babbel.
No,
no Rosetta
no
Stone.
Rosetta Stone,
No.
CDs, cassettes.
None of that stuff.
Man, I hope there were some. It sounds like there were probably some nice people around him who helped him learn. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there? Do you know if there was like a group of Iranian?
Yeah, there was like
Okay.
a small Iranian population that
Okay.
were sort of gathering together in Kansas City and in Lawrence, but he pretty much figured it out on his own.
That's
and
amazing.
yeah,
So, do you know what caused them to start their own firm?
there's a lot of different mechanisms for small businesses or diverse businesses or minority-owned businesses that can get certified in different states. It starts sort of at the federal level, but then each state or each city has their own registration certification. So they realized early on, like, hey, we could probably apply for this, become a minority-owned business, and then there's requirements in contracts where contracts, that are awarded have to have a certain percentage of participation from either diverse or women-owned businesses. And so I think that was sort of one of the reasons. The reason they would probably say is they just wanted to work for themselves.
Sure.
But I think it was just a really good sort of opportunity at that time. And they got some work that way. And then the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Sometimes people in those groups just need a chance, just need an opportunity.
Pretty much. That's it.
And once they get the door gets open for them, they can go from there.
That's
right?
all they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that.
And some of those clients that they worked with when they started, and so they started this in 1989. I was 3 years old. I was their only kid at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, imagine that. They didn't really have that much. They
Yeah.
weren't like super successful yet. They had just started their careers,
Yeah.
maybe worked for a few years, and then decided, let's go all in on this thing. And it worked out. But some of those clients that they had originally are still clients today. So 34, 35
Holy
years
cow.
later, yeah, man, we do good work.
I believe you. I believe that's impressive. I mean, just put that on your web. Just tell people that. I feel like that's great marketing.
Yeah,
It's good marketing.
it's pretty fun.
Awesome. So you went to KU and you were gonna get a degree in
I was going to get a degree in psychology, or
Yeah.
so I thought.
and then you got a call from your mom. You talked to your mom one day,
yeah.
and she's like, "That's cute."
She said, "Nice try." Yeah. No,
Try
no, you're
again.
not.
Try again.
I said, "What do you mean? I got to pick my major." She goes, "Yeah, you can pick as long as it's engineering, lawyer, or doctor, but it's your choice."
Yep.
And
Telling my kids the same thing. Doctor, lawyer, engineer. But there's so many, you get to pick whatever you want.
yes,
Just as long as it's one of those
as
fields.
long as it's one of those three.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so pissed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh man,
You hung up the phone with mom
I
and,
was
and
so
thought
mad.
what?
I was like, she doesn't know. Now,
Classic
yeah.
like 18, 19-year-old.
Yeah.
She doesn't get me.
She doesn't get it. There's I can go do whatever I want. Yeah, right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God for that
Right.
advice. Let's call it advice
Sure.
she gave me, or maybe an ultimatum.
But it's also mature of you to kind of recognize that along the way. I think a lot of people get that same information, that same push from their parents and reject it and then never come back around and realize the wisdom in it.
Yeah, it didn't take me long. I mean, I graduated college in 2008 with an engineering degree. And if you remember, you were alive then.
Yes. Yep.
Very alive.
Yep.
In 2008.
I was working for a nonprofit in 2008. So
Yeah.
I remember.
Tough to get a job
Yeah.
in 2008.
Not the best economic times.
No. And like most of the kids that were around me in school had a really tough time getting jobs, even with engineering degrees.
What would you have done if you'd gotten a psychology degree?
I would have probably been living in their basement,
Yeah.
working at McDonald's.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful that she pushed me down that path. She did the same thing to my brother. He tried his version of my story.
And did
he
you
ended
ever
up the
need to
same.
go on and get like a graduate degree?
No, in engineering, if you go towards a graduate degree, you're almost going to be like a researcher or a professor.
Okay.
And those are like the only real options. If you want to
Gotcha.
go right into work for like a consulting firm, the master's doesn't really get you that much.
Okay.
You just got
So it's like if you're going to go on and get graduate, you might as well go get a PhD and do something in academia.
Yeah,
something.
go be a professor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want a real world application, work in the real world, then
Yeah,
bachelor's is plenty.
yeah, not to like diminish
No,
the doctor engineers that get
Sure.
their doctorates. It's amazing, and they do great things, and they invent amazing
Sure.
things. But for those who want to like go into consulting, I'm not the only one who would say this. I don't think the master's
That's
or
your
doctorate
opinion.
really adds that much, because when you get to work, you realize you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what degree you have, you're starting over.
Yeah.
You just have to learn from scratch.
Yeah. The degree got you and your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Now you got to start your career.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing I learned in engineering school was how to learn. That's pretty much it.
It's good.
And then
Cool.
the rest
That's
you figure
more
out
than
on
I
your job.
learned because I ended up getting a psychology degree. That
Yeah, baby.
that I'll never use. My mom did not tell me to go get an engineering degree. Probably because my mom knew me and she was like, "You would not be a good engineer." Math, me and math in school, just we don't get along very well.
Yeah,
So,
but it worked out.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, you're doing good.
I'll be okay. I didn't pick up a camera until I was 28. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
like 28, and I was like, "Oh, I picked up a camera, made a video." I was like, "This makes sense." I was like, "How'd you do that?" I was like, "I don't know. It just made sense. How did you not know how to do this?" Like it's just like
Amazing.
it just everything unlocked, and I was like, "This makes total sense to me."
And now you have bazillion cameras in your basement.
Yeah, got a
pretty
couple.
cool.
Probably need a few more, but we'll get there. So awesome. So you moved out here and you were working. What were you had just an engineering? And how long did you work in Denver before you started the Colorado branch?
Yeah, so I was at a big engineering firm, Burns & McDonnell, great company, amazing place, right out of school, 2008, for 14 and a half years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Long time.
What were you doing there?
By the end of it, I was managing a team of just awesome people, awesome engineers doing huge projects all over the country.
Was it hard to leave?
It was really hard to
Yeah, the uncertainty of it. Do you miss the certainty of it?
No, because it's hard to explain, but when you work with your parents and you can see sort of this beautiful thing that they've made, there's really no second guessing or questioning the decision I made, because it's just like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It was hard to leave for sure. I prolonged it longer than I should have probably, but it was a great place, gave me a great start. I learned a lot, got to work on some crazy stuff all over the world.
Anything cool
Yeah, so like I got
that
to
you can
work
talk
on-
about?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Got to do a lot of projects at the airport here, which was amazing.
Oh, cool.
Got to do projects.
Did you do the Illuminati tunnels underneath?
Yeah, we were hanging out with all the little monsters in the basements.
Perfect,
Yeah,
okay.
for sure. All that stuff is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Look it
ask
up.
you more about that later. Off wax.
No, I've been in the tunnels, and it's actually very it's a big letdown. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way. It's
Good to
hot and
know.
uncomfortable.
Okay.
That's about it.
Not where Beyonce wants to go in the apocalypse.
Correct. But there are several like areas of just abandoned luggage that are like 30 feet tall by hundreds of feet long, where just like the thing fell off the cart and it just ended up in the basement. So
What do they do with all that?
they just pile it up.
It's just there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I got to work on the airport. I got to work on some Air Force bases. I got to work on the military bases in Hawaii.
Okay.
I got to do a project doing cyanide in Nevada. I got to work at Boeing. I mean, I got to do all kinds of cool stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
A lot of traveling then.
A lot of traveling. Yeah.
Do you travel more now or back then?
Well, I travel just to Kansas City and back now,
Yeah.
and I stay with my folks, and I eat my grandma's food.
Oh.
So it's a lot better
That's a lot better
than a hotel in Winnemucca.
living. Yeah. Yeah, those continental breakfasts is not the same. Doesn't hit quite the same as grandma's breakfast, right?
Not the same.
Okay.
No.
Good. Yeah. And then so I always assumed that you broached the conversation with your parents, but you actually said that your parents broached the conversation with you about kind of starting a Colorado branch, coming to work for them.
Yeah, I think that they started the conversation. They've always been saying, "Hey, when are you going to move back to Kansas City?" And I think they finally figured out it's not happening
Mm-hmm.
because we're pretty rooted here, and
Sure.
this is where we want to raise our kids.
Right.
And it would be great to be with them. It'd be great to be back home, but it just wouldn't really work.
Right.
So they just said, "Hey, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want us to do? We got this business. We've been doing it for 35 years. What does the next 35 look like? Because we're not going to do it forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you want us to try to sell it? Should we try to maybe merge with somebody else? Or do you want to maybe come and work with us? Or do you want us to just kind of work until we die and then you figured it out?"
Mm.
I'm like, well, let's not do that option.
That's a bad option.
That one doesn't sound
That's a bad
great.
option.
And it just, the timing worked out really well.
Very wise of your parents to start that conversation early.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm thankful that they did when they did.
I like your parents already, and I've never met
you would
them,
love
so
them, man.
I feel like
yeah, they're the life of the party,
that's cool.
and they would feed you really well.
I would love that.
Trust me. They're coming actually tomorrow,
Okay.
and they're bringing like 100 pounds of frozen food.
That's awesome. All right, I'll
Seriously.
take a little bit of that. I'll
Yeah.
have to try it.
Yeah, we'll have you over for dinner.
All right, sounds good.
But yeah, I'm so thankful. Like you said, it's just really wise of them to have that conversation, and it's been really cool because ever since we made this decision to say, basically, my answer was I would love to join the family company as long as I don't have to move back to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Can we start a Colorado branch? And because of COVID and the world sort of going remote, that all of a sudden became a real possibility. Where before they didn't, they never had a virtual meeting. They didn't have people on Teams or Zoom before that.
Didn't know what Zoom was. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty thankful.
That's awesome. Well, I want to talk about your parents and the business that they started and sort of the foundation of that. Because you told me a few things about just like treating your employees like family, really focusing. Can you elaborate on that? Like what makes your parents, the business, just successful, and what was so attractive about it that made you want to join?
Yeah. Well, I think I didn't really know everything until I got into it.
Sure.
I've always seen it from a distance, but now being into it, my answer is a lot different than 2 years ago when I started. What makes it special, what makes it different, is everybody's pretty much family. So there's really no management structure. There's no corporate ladder. There's no titles. Nobody's trying to fight internally to get a position. Everybody's trusted to do their job.
Okay.
Everybody does their job really well. They're paid fairly, and they're treated like family with respect.
There's no leadership structure.
Really not. I mean, it's just basically mom and dad kind of are in charge, and everybody does their thing, and it works.
Everyone has defined roles, though.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's flopping in the wind,
Yeah.
wondering what they should be doing on a given day.
Okay.
But there's no this guy reports to that guy, and this gal reports to that gal, and none of that sort of mid-level management. And that, I don't think that would work at 100.
Sure.
But it works at 23.
That's okay. I was going to ask how big.
Yeah.
23.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big number, though, still without certain leadership structures, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, half of them.
But I mean, if everyone just does their job and does it really well, then I guess you don't need the structure like that.
Yeah. I think it takes a certain culture and vibe and personalities for that to really work. And it's hard to explain this to anybody that's been in the corporate world because they've only seen it one way. Yeah. This is how it should be structured. You need to have these policies in place. You have to have this management in place. And I get it. When you're a big company, I think you have to. But when you're small, you have a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
So everybody shows up. I mean, some of the folks, just to sort of, like, the proof is in the pudding, I guess. Employee number 1 is still there. Employee number 2 is still there. Employee number 3 retired. 4 is still there. So some of the folks that we have been there for, 30 plus years with my folks, and they've seen me basically grow up from this baby to now being able to work together. It's just this really crazy.
It's all kind of come full
circle.
Amazing. That's really cool.
Like, they were, some of the folks that we have in our office, they were at all my high school musicals and plays and graduations, and like we've sort of grown up together.
Are there any other multi-generational, like, do you have parents and kids working with you guys?
We're working on a couple.
Okay. All right. Spoiler alert.
Hillary.
Okay. All right. That's awesome, man. That's very cool. I love that. That's like, your parents really are like the American dream.
Pretty much.
Like personified.
Pretty much. Yeah. And I would say the other thing that really makes it special is that we care deeply about the type of work that we do, and like doing a really, really, really good job.
Yeah.
Like, just good enough is not good enough. So every project has to go well. Every drawing has to be right. And when you do that, and when you take care of your customers that way, they keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. So like, when I first started, one of the first questions I asked my dad was, "What do you do for business development?" And he said, "What is that?" He was like, "Seriously, what are you talking about?" I said, like taking people out to coffee and lunch and dinner and schmoozing.
A little bit, yeah.
And he just looked at me and he said, "Why would I do that?" The phone keeps ringing for 35 years.
Yeah.
And it's pretty special. And I've seen it now for 2 years now. It's amazing. Like, I'll go chase a project, chase it hard, really want it. We don't get it. And then he just gets like a random call the next day from somebody he hasn't heard from in 20 years, and they have this monster project. And it's amazing.
Yeah. I feel like that's like what I want my business to be like, and I try. It's like the long-term goal, the mission of and vision is just to have repeat clients. And then, like, we don't do any market. It's funny because, like, that's what we do is we create marketing content. We don't market our business at all.
Awesome.
It's just zero. So not nearly as good as your dad, and your family and y'all's business. But that is definitely the goal, I think, of every small business, is just to be able to just take care of the client, not focus on profits, just focus on your clients, making sure the project goes really well, that they're really happy with it. And then the next time they need something, you're the first call. They don't even think about.
That's right.
They don't even want to. Like, why would they find another engineering firm?
That's
like,
right.
That sounds like a pain in the butt. It went so smooth last time. Let's just run it back.
Pretty much.
Let's just keep running it back. And so that's kind of always my goal. I have, I started my business in like 2016, 2017, and I have I had no clients, but I still have 2 or 3. Most of the biggest problem is that I've outgrown the clients. Like, I just can't take on those. I took on such small video projects then, but some of them have grown as I've grown, and we're able to kind of scale as they scale and take those on. But so there's a natural attrition where it's just like, well, we have to do projects this big to make it make sense, and they're doing smaller projects, and so we have to let some of those go. But I still have 2 or 3 clients that I had from day one back then. So
that's awesome, man. Hopefully in 30 years.
30 years. I don't know if I'll be doing this in 30 years, but
you never know.
I'm sure Alex will.
Well, that's because he's like 15.
He graduated high school very recent.
Love that. Congrats, Alex.
Let's talk about sort of the future of SK. Like, what are you guys focusing on right now? Are you trying to grow? What's the biggest challenges? What's in the future?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of companies want to get in this sort of growth mode, grow, just chase anything with the tail and just,
Especially if you have like a board or you have stockholders.
Yeah. You have no choice.
You have to grow.
You have to.
If you don't, if you're family owned, if you're a small business, growth is not necessarily the best thing. It's almost never the best thing.
Well, yeah, it just depends who you want to be when you grow up. Some companies that are small want to grow so they can sell and get, a higher return. I get that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and it works for some people. I think we want to make sure that we don't jeopardize the foundation of the last 35 years, and that we build upon it really intelligently and carefully by really focusing on just taking care of customers and doing a really good job, and taking care of our people. So there's not like this, we want to be double the size in 5
Yeah.
years or
Is there a lot of that in the engineering world where you're starting a firm and you're trying to grow it with the intent of selling it?
yeah, just like any.
So it's not the work that's the goal. The goal is to sell.
Well,
Awesome.
I mean, I don't know if everybody would say that that's the goal, but I guarantee a couple people,
Would admit it.
would admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because unless you just want to be doing it forever at the size that you are.
Yeah.
So, but I think growth should be redefined because just by getting more
Yeah. What do you mean?
profit or more people, doesn't necessarily mean you're doing better.
Gotcha. There's lots of different ways to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just numbers of employees and dollars.
Yeah, pretty
Right?
much.
It's personal growth, development growth, like
Yeah.
emotional growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think our goal would be just to keep doing really good work. I think we want to grow by expanding in Colorado a bit. So if we could have the same size team in Colorado that we have in Kansas City, because in Kansas City we're the go-to civil engineering firm in town, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of really good ones, but
Sure.
there are several folks that would
One
say,
of the go-to.
yeah, one of the go-to firms that people trust. And by the way, we don't have that certification anymore, and the phone keeps ringing, which is pretty special.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So a lot of it's like it's meant to be a program that you graduate out of.
Yeah.
And we did many years ago, and it's still been successful, which is awesome. So that would be my goal here for Colorado. Would be become one of the go-to civil engineering firms in Colorado and have a sustainable team that we can grow, in a similar fashion that we have in Kansas City.
So how do you do that?
How do we do that? We chase work.
Yeah.
We do good work when we get it. We go above and beyond, and then we have clients call us back. And so far, that's been happening. So it didn't take much. It's amazing that the random connections that seem to be so random, that lead to work. And like I picked an office space in Castle Rock just because it had free coffee and free printing.
Hey, those are two very important
Very
things.
important things in my life. Coffee
Yeah.
much more than printing. And I was walking around and I saw there's an architect in the same building, and I told my dad, and he said that's a Kansas City based architecture firm that we work with right now. Just knock on the door.
Yeah.
So, and just like that, we're doing work together, and
Oh, that's
those
perfect.
guys have been great to work with.
Love it.
So yeah, it's been really fun.
Do you have a specific project that you've worked on that you're really proud of?
Yeah.
You can tell us about?
Yeah. So we do a lot of the civil engineering for University of Kansas, where Nicole and I went to school. And going back on campus with my alma mater being my client is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my career.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I hadn't really been back on campus much since graduating because, unless you're going to go to a basketball game, like why would you go back to your college campus?
Just go hang out in the
Just-
student center.
Yeah, it's kind
Grab
of
a
weird.
slice. Grab a slice from the cafeteria.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, right? So we did a project. We partnered with some local architects and some national architects, and we did a master plan update. So university campuses do this all over the world, where they master plan their campus. They say, let's just basically zoom out. What do we want this thing to look like in 30 years? What do we want our buildings to look like? What do we want our infrastructure to look like? Where do we want buses and transit and parking and all this stuff to look like? And our task in that master plan was to look at all of the stormwater, sanitary, and water infrastructure on campus today and looking into the future. And it was just really cool to, it's boring stuff to most people. It's water and sewage.
Yeah. It's important to think about.
You have to think about it. Otherwise you get into a bind down the road. And so it was really fun to sort of look at the whole campus as a whole and say, where could we do some unique stormwater things? How could we maybe improve the current piping that they have? And again, just for your alma mater to be your client was just, I think, one of the most rewarding moments of my career.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. One thing that we can kind of wrap up on this is you mentioned just redefining professional success. How would you define professional success? And maybe, you can speak to young entrepreneurs, young engineers. What should they be thinking about as far as professional success? What does that look like?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I think that my current perspective on this would apply more than just engineers. It would apply to you. It would apply to people doing video stuff, podcast, media, whatever. Really anybody in a job. There's been this, I would say, this perspective of we have to climb a corporate ladder to be successful. I interviewed somebody this week actually, and he asked me specifically, you guys are small, you don't have structure. How do you do corporate ladder progression, career progression? Companies sort of put these boundaries around this, and they give it language like this is career progression, it's personal growth, it's professional development
Sure.
by getting the next title.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't actually mean you're doing any better or you're any more valuable. You're just sort of like achieving this next title. You're going to go from an engineer or fill in the blank to a project manager, fill in the blank, to a senior project manager, to a principal, to a president.
And that's tied to salary too a lot of times.
Correct.
I think that's why people want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's tied to salary, but it's also tied to reputation and, your LinkedIn title.
Sure.
And, people associate value with titles. I used to. For 15 years of my life,
Sure.
I thought that, that made sense to me. Now I'm seeing a different way. And the way I responded to this young man that I was interviewing this week, I said, the way I would define success for you is, okay, every year, if you're doing better than you were doing the last year, you're going to get paid more. So you're going to get the salary that you're after each year as you continue to do a better job. But if in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years from now, you're doing such good work that your clients are calling you directly and they're saying, I want you, Matthew, to do my project and I just trust you.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is successful career. Whatever your title is and however much you're getting paid.
Yeah.
If you're getting paid fairly and customers are calling you direct, I think you've had a successful career.
Just to play antagonist a little bit though, do you think that, because I share a very similar perspective, almost the exact same perspective, but I've thought about that and kind of been challenged on it. And I think, because I don't really care about titles, you can call me whatever. You can call me assistant to the assistant. I don't really care, but we're also in charge. And I think that being in charge, and everyone kind of knowing that we're in charge, I think people underneath you need to know that they have somewhat upward mobility. Right. And we don't care about titles because our title doesn't matter. We can make up our own titles, but I think people underneath you also want to know that there's like some sort of upward mobility. And if you don't lay out a progression for them, hey, here's where I could see you in 2 years, here in 5 years, in 10 years, here's where I want the direction I want you to go at least. And you have to name that direction. You know what I mean? So maybe it's not titles, but I don't know. So just to push back a little bit, I think I've been challenged on that a little bit lately and tried to think about it more and add a little bit of structure to my business, even though it's much smaller than y'all's. I want to have something in place where people know kind of like, okay, this is where I'm at now. Here's what I'm working towards. Here's what it comes with that. More responsibilities, a higher salary.
Yeah.
I need to work towards something.
Yeah. I think that laying out goals, putting something down on paper, tangible, putting some words around it is very wise and I think necessary. You can't just leave it sort of loosey-goosey. Hey,
Sure.
Just do good work and you will figure it out.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what I'm suggesting. It's more along the lines of actually what you're saying. So from our perspective or in our standpoint, let's just focus on just engineering for a minute here. If you come into an engineering company and you're, let's say, an entry-level engineer right out of school, you're not going to be running your own projects right out of school. Right. And if you are, they're not going to go very well.
Sure.
I promise you that.
Yeah.
You need to be working with somebody who's, knows what they're doing, learning from them, developing your technical skills, understanding the solutions that you're presenting to the customer, understanding the problems. And then eventually you start to learn how to solve the problems. You start to come up with your own ideas of how to solve the problems. And once you're sort of getting that, then you're almost like the lead engineer and you're the one designing the project. You're not being told what to do.
How does that employee know when they've shifted,
Yeah, I think they know when the responsibility is solely theirs and they're trusted to do that. And it's not somebody telling them basically draw this, draw that, design this, design that. It's whenever they feel comfortable.
They take ownership of it.
Yeah. And that trajectory looks different for every individual. It can't be the same. In 2 years, you're going to be doing this. And
certainly.
Because
you can't turn that into a formula, right? There's not an equation perfect because it's going to be different for every person.
Exactly.
And their skill sets are going to develop differently and they may go in a different direction. So
yeah. And so we'll tell an engineer, our goal for you is to just become a really well-rounded engineer and just focus on that for the next 3 years. Just be really, really good in engineering on these specific things. We'll lay it out. Like, we want you to design roadways. We want you to design utilities. We want you to do grading and storm drainage. All these things you're probably like, what are you saying?
No, I mean, I know what drainage is.
Yeah, drainage.
Yeah,
Everybody knows what drainage is. Yeah.
Utilities.
So, we'll tell them,
Do they typically specialize in just one of those areas? Or do they need to be broad enough they can kind of do all of it?
Again, engineering school just teaches you how to learn. So any engineer coming out of school is pretty much fresh, not really knowing much.
But 5, 6, 10 years in, are they doing all those things, or are they niching down and focusing on one?
At SK Design, they're doing all those things.
Okay.
It's other firms, they have departments and they specialize in one thing, and they just basically like, I'm going to be a roadway guy, or I'm going to be a drainage person, which I get. But for us, we want everybody to learn all of it.
Well, those things are also probably all tied together.
They work together. See,
it's good to know all of them.
See, you could be an engineer.
I could not.
You totally
don't
could.
know. I can't do math. You got to do math, right?
Not that often.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, you just have to have common sense.
I do have common sense.
Okay, if the hill goes this way, where does the water go?
The water's going downhill.
See,
baby.
engineer, civil engineer, right
all
there.
All right, sign me up. You're hiring, right?
I'm hiring. Yeah, you wanna come?
No. I need to be behind a camera.
Well, you're doing a great job at that.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, where can people get a hold of you? How can people find you online? If someone needs something built, what should they do? Or if they're an engineer and they just like you and they're like, I would love to work with that guy. He seems super cool. He's funny. His parents make good food. I need to be involved in that. So if there's some engineer looking for a job out there.
Yeah, I would just say go to skdg.com.
What does SK stand for, by the way?
It's my mom and dad's name.
I thought so.
Sasan and Kadra.
Okay.
Which is actually Khatara, but yeah.
Okay. I'm just a dumb American.
Nobody can say kh in America. So we just say Kadra.
Khatara.
You're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
SK Design.
When the mics are off. Okay.
When the mics are Sasan and Kadra. So that, mom and dad's initials. So if you wanna work with us, or if you're looking for civil engineers who really care about doing really good work, and stand behind it, go to skdg.com or just text me at 913-219-1818.
We're not putting your number out there. You're talking about
Why not?
That out, Alex.
Why not?
Because you don't want your number out there. Is it on the website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. You're gonna get some weird people, but okay.
Really?
No, I'm sure. No, only the coolest people watch this podcast.
Nobody made it this far.
Yeah, that's true. Just to scam you.
Just to be like, I'm gonna send that guy random text.
Yeah, you're gonna get some some bots now. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, man.
Great story. Appreciate you.
Great to see you, man.
That's a wrap.